good people of YouTube? Mountbatten here, and today we have a follow-up video to last week's top 5 video. Last week I did the top 5 removed premium ships, and in that video I was going after more of those older classic premium ships that we hear so much about, that often get touted about in the Santa container events. And this week we're going off of you guys' suggestion from that video on what you guys would say are the top 5 removed premium ships. Now, there's a caveat to this. I'm only doing ships that I do have on my account, because if I don't have them, I can't get footage for them, and I can't really talk about them too much because I don't have much experience in them. So that's why also in the last week's video, I didn't bring up, like the Koenig Alberg and ships like that, because I don't have those ships. But anyway, these are top 5 removed premium ships according to you guys. So let's go ahead and get started. Also, by the way, like number 1 on this list doesn't mean that it's like more rare or more, I guess, removed than the other ships on this list. It doesn't really matter on my top 5 list unless I state at the beginning that, 1 is better than 5. These are just 5 ships. They're all equally as removed pretty much. Well, except for 1. But anyway, let's go ahead and get started. So coming in at number 5, we have the Tier 8 Premium American CV, the Enterprise. Yes, this one got brought up a lot in last week's video. So the Enterprise is pretty much the definition of overpowered. She was removed for balancing reasons, right shortly after the CV rework, if I'm remembering correctly. I did get her a little bit before that. I played her a bit back when CVs were still RTS, and she was the only CV that I could really do good in the RTS playstyle, and that does say a lot as to how she performs. Even after the CV rework, well, I guess not even after, but of course after the CV rework, she is still one heck of a powerhouse. Now, ironically, the matches that I played like 4 matches trying to record some footage in her, and like they all ended in like 7, 8, 9 minutes. The longest match that I got is what you're watching right now. But even in those 7, 8, 9 minutes, I still managed to do a fair bit of damage. CVs nowadays, they really need time to do a lot of damage in the match, unless you're a really good CV player and are really good at just getting off like the perfect drops over and over. You do need the match to go for a little ways before you can get like those really good damage numbers, like over 120,000 damage. But anyway, even in the short amount of time in these matches, the Enterprise still managed to perform quite well. I finished like top 2 or 3 in the team in these matches. And, well, where do we start out with the Enterprise? Well, first off, her planes have a pretty darn good regen rate, to where, unless you really are just like throwing away whole squadrons at once, you won't have much of a problem with Enterprise when it comes to planes. Even in Tier 10 games, if you're even just mildly decent at dodging flak, you should have pretty darn full squadrons until you get really late game. The game just go for like 20 or so minutes. And if you are top tier in the Enterprise, then unless you are 100% just straight up flying through flak, you should still have plenty of planes for the duration of the match. Now, the individual squadrons themselves are also very good. While most CVs typically have a weaker set of planes, the Enterprise doesn't really. Her rocket planes are fantastic. Even after all the global changes to rocket planes, they're still very good and very efficient at taking out destroyers. Then you've got the torpedo bombers. The torpedo bombers are pretty darn good, and I hear this set of planes is often referred to as the Enterprise's weakest set. And I mean, if this is the Enterprise's weakest set from other people saying that, then, I mean, good God. Like, it really is that broken then. They are very good. You get 3 torpedoes per attack run. You can do a pretty quick run-up with the Enterprise. I'm very much used to the Graf Zeppelin, really, when it comes to Tier 8 premium aircraft carriers, and you need a bit more of a run-up with those torpedo bombers rather than with the Enterprises, where you can get a pretty short run-up and just shove 3 torpedoes into the broadside over whatever you want. And of course, they do get the heal. And these planes are a little bit slower, well, not a little bit slower, a lot slower than German CVs, which are the ones that I'm used to. But it's just really easy to do a lot of damage with these planes. And then that brings us to her dive bombers, which are absolutely freaking insane. She does drop AP bombs, and good God, you can just outright remove just cruisers, just outright just remove them from the match. Even like AA cruisers, unless you're going up against like a tier 10 AA cruiser, you can remove like half of their health in one bomb run if you do get a decent run up with the Enterprise's bombers. That's pretty much her speciality. And these AP bombs, even though they are smaller AP bombs, they're not the giant AP bombs that like the Richthofen drops, but they are still fully capable of just absolutely taking a dump on battleships, especially German ones, of course, or any battleship that has weak deck armor. These bombs will, of course, just go straight through, and you'll remove just huge chunks of their health with the AP bombs on the Enterprise. It is absolutely insane. And, of course, the Enterprise was removed for these reasons. And if you want to get her, you either have to wait for the yearly container events like they did this year, where they just bring back all these containers for a limited amount of time, which they may or may not be doing next year, but they do it again. You could get the Enterprise in one of the aviation containers, or the Santa container event, which with how that went this year, we all know the likelihood of you getting an Enterprise out of that. But I do hope they don't ever reintroduce this thing, because it is going to be hellish if they do. Alright, after that one, it's a pretty long one. We're moving on down now to number 4, which is the Tier 10 Soviet light cruiser, the Smolensk. This is probably the second most mentioned ship in last week's comment section. So the Smolensk. This ship, oh boy, this was probably my most hated ship in the game for a solid like 3 months after it got released. The Smolensk has 16 guns with, if you build for it, around a 3.5, I think it's like 3.8, 3.7 second reload. And good God, this thing is just a flamethrower. So, on top of having, of course, 16 guns that reload in roughly 3.5 seconds, you also have Soviet shells, which means the shells are very, very quick. They have a very, well, flat-ish arch, especially compared to a lot of other light cruisers in the game. Very fast shells, pretty flat arches, which means you can, of course, just dump all over DDs that aren't expecting you, or even if they are expecting you, you can pretty much melt them down pretty darn fast. The AP is also really good too, and if any other light cruiser comes around the corner or gets close to you, you can absolutely nuke them with the amount of citadels that you are providing them. The guns are small, but hey, when you're shoving 16 citadels into their broadside every 3.5 seconds, they're not going to survive for very long. On top of that, she gets hydroacoustic search, a smoke screen, and torpedoes. Pretty useful torpedoes too. They have an 8-kilometer range, which unlike most other Soviet cruisers that do get torpedoes, their range is literally point blank. The only chance you're going to get to use them is if somebody sails right up to you. The Smolensk has 8-kilometer torpedoes, which if a battleship is charging your smoke, is more than enough to deal with them. Then on top of that, her armor is in the category of so bad it's good. Her armor is so light that if you blast it with a full broadside from a battleship, unless you're like a British BB with their short fuse British BB AP, or like the Thunderer, you won't delete it. You'll get a bunch of overpinch, you may take away like a fourth of his health, but from close range, you're not going to delete him. Now, from longer range with plunging fire and once your shells have slowed down, yeah, you might get lucky enough to land a citadel or two on him, but then at that range, you're probably only going to land like 1 or 2 shells, unless, again, you're like the Thunderer or maybe the Shikishima with her accuracy. So it falls into that, so thin, it's kind of BS armor. Now, it does have its weaknesses. It is very unwieldy. It does handle like a wet brick, and if you do manage to corner it, it's kind of screwed, but most good Smolensk players won't let themselves get into that situation in the first place. However, you can, of course, see the psychological effect of this ship. In the match you're watching right now, I think the part that you should be getting to about now, I'm literally the only thing sitting on the other side of this iceberg, and no one's charging me because it's a Smolensk. It's kind of funny. They eventually do muster up the courage to do so. It's actually the destroyers that, ironically, managed to remove me from this position with all the torpedoes that they were throwing at me. But yeah, you got like, I think like 2 battleships and like 3 or 4 cruisers just sitting on the other side of the iceberg just because I'm here in a Smolensk. It's crazy. And this ship is the bane of many a battleship main and has been for a very long time. It was actually removed from the store pretty quickly. I think it was out for like less than a year. It was like 6, 7, 8 months maybe. That's a very short lifespan for a premium ship. Alright, moving on down now to number 3. We have the Tier 9 Premium French battleship, the Jean Bart. So, the Jean Bart. Many comments were said about the Jean Bart. The reason it wasn't in last week's video is, well, we just had the Black Friday event, and you could literally buy the Jean Bart. That's why it wasn't in there, because it was removed, but then it came back for that week, and I was like, well, it just came back, you know, and I wouldn't think it would qualify for this, but many people requested that it should be, and well, here it is now. And yes, the Jean Bart, I've talked, God, I don't know how much about this ship in the past 3 weeks with the Black Friday event, and then of course with the Santa container event too. So, Jean Bart, Richelieu, move it up to Tier 9, increase the accuracy of its guns, decrease the reload, increase the AA, give it main battery reload booster, and there you go. That's what it is. So you got those 8 15-inch French guns, which have very good velocity on their shells, which means you can absolutely punch above your weight class in the gun department. Anything shows your broadside in this thing, and you have your reload booster ready, it's pretty much dead, unless it gets lucky and manages to angle in time. But with the proper build, you can get the main battery guns down to around a 22-second reload time. Throw Adrenaline Rush on top of that. Then throw a main battery reload booster. That maximum Adrenaline Rush, you know, when you're fairly low on health, you get an 8-second reload time on these guns with the Adrenaline Rush and the main battery reload booster going at the same time. And good God, it is incredibly silly seeing a battleship fire this fast. On top of that, you have pretty darn good AA, some of the actual best AA in the game right now. Jean Bart is still one of the few battleships that can mostly hold its own against CVs, unless you're going up against a really good CV player. The CVs will absolutely pay the price for striking you, so you got that going for you with the Jean Bart. And it's, of course, a fantastic money printer. It is a Tier 9 premium ship, and with the guns that this ship has, with the AP and of course with the HE too, because the ship's very good at HE spam, with main battery reload booster and the fire chance that she has with 15-inch guns, you can easily do well over 130 damage a game. And that will, of course, print you plenty of credits with the Jean Bart. Not as good as the Missouri, though, of course, but still probably the next best thing that, well, was available for a while. Alright, moving on down now to number 2. We have the Tier 5 Japanese destroyer, the Kamikaze. I actually forgot I had this ship. So the Kamikaze, basically the epitome of torpedo spam. She has 6 torpedo tubes that reload in, I believe, 47 seconds, which is really darn fast. And they're the old Japanese torpedoes, the pre-nerf torpedoes. Good speed, good detection, good damage, all in one. And with the detectability range of the Kamikaze being 5.4 with Concealment Expert, and the torpedo range being 7 kilometers, you can get pretty darn close in Tier 5 matches and just throw torpedoes all over the place. And you don't even have to be that precise with them, because, I mean, hey, if you miss those sets in under a minute, probably by the time your torpedoes have gotten to your target, you've only got maybe another 20 seconds to wait, and you got another full salvo of torpedoes just ready and willing to go. And of course, the guns are not fantastic, but it is Japanese DD, well, not Japanese DDHE, just Japanese HE in general is pretty darn good with a 10-second reload, which is far from terrible by Tier 5 standards, so you got that going for you as well. And throw in smokescreen and speed boost on top of that, and this is a terrifying little sill clubber in the right hands, and has been removed for quite some time, and I do believe the only way to get them is in these Santa containers if you get lucky. Alright, moving on down now to number 1, we have the Tier 8 German battleship, the Odin. Now, I'm surprised this ship got mentioned in the comment section, because, like, most of the community, I feel, still has a pretty negative viewpoint of the Odin. So the Odin was the second dockyard ship the first ship to, well, the first dockyard event since the Puerto Rico event that dare come up. It's a much better event in my opinion, I think in everyone else's opinion too. The community was still split over the ship, however, some people said it's great. I'm in that camp. Some people said it's terrible. And I mean, I can see why. If you play it like a battleship, it's not the best battleship, but if you play it like a super cruiser, which it pretty much is, it's much better. It is essentially a very heavily armored super cruiser. You have super cruiser caliber guns, you have super cruiser maneuverability and speed, and you have absolutely fantastic armor. The Odin has, of course, 32mm bow plating, but it also has a full wraparound icebreaker bow. It's not like the Kurfürst and the FDG where you still have a slit where you can get through the icebreaker bow. That does not happen in the Odin. You got a full-on wraparound icebreaker bow that Yami and Shikishima cannot pin. Plus, you have a 90mm stern, which nothing's getting through that stern if you're stern out. Out on top of that, 11.6 kilometer secondaries, furthest range of any tier H secondaries. And I mean, you know, it doesn't have the most secondaries, that is very much true, but all the secondaries can pin 32mm of armor. Throw Lucian's on there, and when you get over 100 secondary hits, you activate his secondary armaments expert skill, which decreases your secondary reload time by 15%. Throw on Adrenaline Rush there, you've got a nice little secondary machine gun there. Now the main battery guns, they're not that great. They are, of course, small for tier 8. They are, I believe, they're like 13.5 inch-ish. And then they do have a 22-second reload, which is long-ish for the caliber, but 22 seconds is still 22 seconds. And again, with Adrenaline Rush, that reload time is going to go down. And she has pretty good AP. If something shows you broadside like a heavily armored cruiser or a battleship, they will fill it. Don't you know, they're still 13-inch guns. So they're going to slap pretty hard if you get a full broadside on something. Not as much, of course, as 15-inch guns or 16-inch guns, but they still pack one nice punch. And of course, the HE is pretty decent as well. Accuracy is not fantastic because, of course, German guns aren't allowed to have accuracy. But with a 22-second reload, it kind of makes up for it. Add on top of that, fighter plane and hydroacoustic search. And torpedoes. So this ship is like every single German gimmick they could bolt onto this ship, they did. Now, the downside, like I said, the accuracy of the main battery guns, the firing angles on the secondaries aren't that great, and it does have tier 5 battleship levels of health. It did it when it originally started, and I do understand why they cranked it down, because honestly, with the armor scheme that the Odin does have, if it had its original HP pool, this ship would be, oh god, the ship would be broken pretty bad. Now, did it deserve to be slapped down to 50-ish thousand health? No. It probably, you know, 55, maybe 60, but yeah, I mean, I see why. I see why they did it, but also, you know, it would be very nice if this thing had around 60,000 health. Maybe a little bit broken there, but yeah. But yes, this ship is actually, you have, as right now, as I'm being recording this, there's no way to get this ship again. Came out for the dockyard, hasn't been put in the premium shop, hasn't been offered in any containers to my knowledge. I double checked the Santa container list before I record this video, and nope, can't get it there. So this is actually the most removed ship of any of the ships on this list, and my favorite out of these. Anyway guys, hope you enjoyed. Let me know what you think in the comments down below. What other ships should be included on this list? If you guys enjoyed, make sure to drop a like, leave a comment, and subscribe to the channel. We're on our way now to 25,000 subs, just past 20,000. And the second winner for the 20,000 subscriber giveaway was chosen. It was, let me pull up his name real quick. Well, it was Rhinoceros 5. I'm still waiting to hear back from him. I was actually out of town when he finally messaged me on Discord. And I'm waiting to hear what ship he wants to get in the giveaway. But as soon as he lets me know, I will let you guys know. Anyway, congratulations to him. We have one more winner to select, so he will be selected here shortly by the bot, and I'll let you know what he chooses at that point. Anyway, guys, again, hope you guys are having a wonderful Monday. Hope to catch you guys in the next one.